linebackers yesterday. We talked to J.R. Johnson and then Sean Murphy. The main thing that stands out about the linebacker group is that they got a bunch of freaks and they also have a lot of speed. So those were probably the main things. Then also just the DBs are coming along in terms of chemistry. Chemistry seems to be really coming along for all these different position groups, which is what you want early on in fall camp.
Well, gosh, just thinking about the linebackers alone, if they have speed anywhere in the vicinity of what you had a year ago, you're hopefully going to probably be in pretty good shape. Again, that's them saying that. We obviously have to see it translate on the field, but that is a big area of concern in terms of what you're replacing from a year ago in the middle of that defense.
Yeah, and guys, I think that's a spot where as you start to kind of, and this started in this, I would say the summer, it's already, I mean, we're a weekend, so you can't quite start to make declarations yet, but I would say at least internally, that's a spot where I think there is some quiet confidence about them being able to replace those guys. And a lot of it is because of how they've recruited the guys they've brought in. It's kind of one of those things to me. I put it in two different categories, right? Like there's a certain category of this where it's not kind of checked off until you go do it against other opponents, right? Like it's not possible if you have question marks at a position to say, hey, this isn't a question anymore until you go do it against Virginia Tech. You go do it in SEC play. But most years, I feel like you can, if you go position by position, you can get an idea internally where do they have questions and where do they feel pretty good. And, I think the more you hear, I think South Carolina feels pretty good about this linebacker group taking that, or the guys in that group taking the step forward. Will it be as good as they were last year right off the jump for South Carolina this year? That might be a bridge too far, but I think Sean Murphy has come right in and, done everything asked of him. South Carolina, as much as his career was a little bit up and down to this point, they really thought he had put something together the latter half of his time at Florida State because he had gotten healthy. Yeah. He was injured the early portion of last year.
Yeah.
They really loved his back half film from last year. He's carried that over. And then with J.R. Johnson, you actually do have a guy who physically is comparable to Demetrius Knight. Now, is he ready to be the veteran guy that D. Knight was? Remains to be seen. But I think when you look at the traits in that room, there's a reason for optimism. The more you hear, again, I tend to think that's a position group that is going to have a chance to probably surprise people in the outside world if they play up to the level of the expectations they have internally at South Carolina.
Well, and you look at, JR was asked yesterday. Now, he's a man of few words. He kind of reminds you of Dylan Stewart. But he said, hey, out of those guys that left or leaving the roster, who do you think you are most comparable to? He actually said Bam, which is interesting because he said Bam might be controversial, Wes. He said Bam was the fastest.
Maybe. No, I think that is actually true.
That probably is true. D. Knight would probably, humble guy, but he might say, it might be me. But regardless, point is, both those guys could run, right? You had a lot of different skill sets in that group, and you had a lot of experience because they were all seniors, fourth, fifth-year players. So that's the thing that's kind of the missing piece for this linebacker group is they haven't played as much ball. But I think what you do look at is there's some depth, and there is talent. There is athleticism. That's been, I think, one of the biggest storylines of the Shane Beamer era. I mean, look at the difference. Contrast, where they were in 2021 at linebacker versus where they are now. And I think you see the athleticism, the depth in that linebacker room, the amount of guys who can come in and be impact players, if not immediately, at some point, has really increased. You remember 2021, they basically had three guys they were going to rotate, and one of them got injured in game 2 in Sherrod Green. Now you're kind of down to taking your third guy, and now he's a starter. There's just not as much depth. It will be important for this group to stay healthy, obviously, but they've got a nice mix of guys who are very athletic, I think.
Yeah, and I think Bam was one of those guys who quietly last year was way more athletic than maybe just the average fan recognizes. I remember last summer some of the stuff floating out about like the GPS numbers, and it was that D. Knight and Bam were kind of in a competition with each other, but then you start to hear, hey, well, this J.R. Johnson guy, he don't forget about him, especially for the future. I went back and looked, by the way, when Jr. was at South Carolina's camp, and this would have been like 2 seasons ago. He was originally listed, by the way, as a 195-pound wide receiver early in his high school career. He shows up at camp, 6'3", 225 pounds, a 4.54 40-yard dash, a 4.2 shuttle, and a 9.8 broad jump. And South Carolina says, okay, offer that guy. Now he's up to being in the 240s, and I imagine probably runs about the same. We don't have that data, obviously, in front of us, but easily, as I said, 244 right now to be exact, easily is one of the freakish athletes on this entire team. So I think cautious optimism for that group at this point.
We'll get to find that out in 24 days of how that translates to on the field. But coming up next, Pete Nakos of On3 joins us about what could be on the horizon with college football and a collective bargaining agreement and what else is happening around the sport. Up next here as we broadcast live from Firehouse Subs in Elgin, going up until noon here in the game.
All right, guys, you know it. The countdown to kickoff is on 24 days, which means you don't have that much time to go ahead and upgrade that man cave. To upgrade your football viewing experience, hit up our friends at Integrated Media today, 803-948-8327, or head on over to integratedmediainc.com for more information about all of their services. We've been telling you about Integrated Media now for years, but the short version is whatever you want to dream up for that man cave or your just maybe even in your living room, they can take that experience to the next level and bring it to reality for you. That may be as simple as hanging the TV, hiding the wires, or going with surround sound, or like I said, going all in on that home theater system or your man cave. Whatever you're dreaming up, go check out integratedmediainc.com, get an idea of some of the things they've done on other homes, or just dream it up yourself. Let them know, and they're going to bring it to reality for you. Again, integratedmediainc.com. Check them out today.
And welcome back in. It is the Extra Point Gamecock Central Takeover. We're live at Firehouse Subs in Elgin. Tyler West, Chris going up until noon. Jack Beltry also joining us here on your Thursday. It's time to talk to one of our favorite guests, our guy Pete Nakos of On 3. A lot happening in the college football world. We are 24 days away from South Carolina kicking things off. How are you doing, and how's your countdown to the season starting going, Pete?
Good, ready for the ball to get put on the field.
Absolutely, as we all are. A lot to get to here in terms of the future of college football. You've been out at the Personnel and Recruiting Symposium out this week in Nashville. A lot of people you get to talk to there, a lot of stories that's coming out because of that. What's your main takeaway from what you've seen and what you've been talking about this week in Nashville?
Yeah, I think that there's still a lot of things that are going to change in the future of college athletics. You look at the transfer portal, that's probably going to change at some point. And then, it seems to be a new consensus around the front office industry that they want collective bargaining, that they're already kind of, revenue sharing might not be the answer everyone thought it was, and collective bargaining might be the pathway forward.
Hey, Pete, it's Wes. Appreciate you doing this, man. Also, congrats on the engagement. Exciting stuff, man.
Appreciate that.
Busy summer for you, dude. But, hey, so as long as rev share is in place as it is right now, what are you seeing from schools in terms of their approach, like promising rev share dollars versus, true NIL dollars? And, what are you seeing just in terms of schools maybe over-promising or just how does that actually work in terms of what they can tell a recruit involving true NIL?
Well, I'll tell you right now, everyone's doing it differently, and I think that's probably the issue everyone has with it. Everyone, has that rev share pool, but then the top programs in college football are still finding ways to circumvent that with their collective or brand deals or real NIL, whatever you want to call it. So there's that, and then recruiting has really turned into this new beast where you have money just being paid to recruits before they even get to campus, and that's become a huge part of the recruiting process, even more so than the last couple decades when we talked about McDonald's bags and things like that.
Pete, it's Chris. Thanks for joining us, man, and I'll join Wes in saying congrats on the engagement. Great work over at On 3 as usual. Question off of that, when August 1st hit, there was some speculation that maybe some of these things that you just laid out and discussed may create kind of a crazy market, maybe some more decommitments and things like that. I mean, what have you picked up in the first week or so of August in terms of just taking the temperature of the recruiting landscape? Like, are we due for some more chaos as these contracts are shown, not shown? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, not to name schools or anything, but there's a lot of contracts out there that still need to be wrapped up before, before the season really kicks off. So I think it's something I'm following closely. I know it's something a lot of other people are following closely, and I think that, it all sounded like a nice plan when we talked about rev share starting July 1 and athletes are going to get more money, and that's all good stuff, but it's really, created a rush for all these schools to make sure all these contracts are signed before, fall camp started. Not everyone's been able to do that. So that's been an issue for a handful.
Hey, Pete, it's Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central. Appreciate you joining us as always. And again, congratulations on the engagement. But you mentioned in your story the other day about the whole collective bargaining stuff that, there's, a possibility of moving towards a collective bargaining model. From what you gather, could that potentially look like for both sides with, the GMs, then also for the players?
Yeah, so President Donald Trump put that executive order into play, and that says that athletes can't be employees. So when you look at collective bargaining, it's going to have to be this system where athletes aren't employees but can still collectively bargain. There's going to have to be a players' association similar to the NFLPA. There's a lot of things that need to happen, and while there does seem to be, growing support of collective bargaining, at the same time, I think there's a lot more hurdles that, the ADs have to get on the same page, and then trying to get the commissioners is going to be, Greg Sankey's power does not grow with collective bargaining. like in college football, as we know, it probably changes when we get to collective bargaining. So things like that are the reason why, we're probably not going to see collective bargaining for anywhere from 4 to 10 more years, I'd have to say.
Again, talking to Pete Nakos of On3, and I'll round up here by saying congratulations on getting engaged as well. And I was going to ask you that, like, if this does end up happening, what is the timetable? What are the hurdles, and how different would it be compared to the CBAs that you have in other professional leagues like NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB?
Yeah, no, it's super complicated when you think about the fact that college players transfer and leave schools like nothing, and then they're also out of college sports real quick. It's anywhere from 3 to 4 year, maybe 5 year period. So you look at that. I mean, I think that it's going to be really difficult to set up a players association, right? It's going to look a little different than the NFLPA and what we think of as the player association. So you have that, and then you also add in the fact too, currently every conference is bargaining for their own media rights, right? Like that kind of leads into the conversation about a college football red zone. Like that can't happen unless CBS and Fox sign off on it, because then you can't put Big Ten games on there. You can't put a handful of Pac-12 too, and Big 12, and so that's why the college football red zone isn't exactly going to happen as quickly as everyone was hoping it is. So you put that into play, and the fact that there isn't one big media rights deal like there is in the NFL. Like there's a lot of things that need to come together for collective bargaining to make sense.
Hey, Pete, let's talk some actual football. What, if anything, have you picked up intel-wise on maybe South Carolina's early camp, just rumblings? And if not anything here, is there anything you've heard maybe on a national level that has just piqued your interest the most as these teams are about a week into preseason camp now?
Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing good things about Lenore Sellers and Dylan Stewart, and I think we all are. So, that's not really a surprise there. The one conversation point I think we all want to know about a little bit is, what can Dylan Stewart do now that Kyle Kennard isn't in the picture, and who's going to step up to make sure that, Dylan isn't getting triple teamed. So the situations like that are going to be really interesting once the season gets going. And then, beyond that too, I think Ty Simpson started to kind of put a little bit of room between him and the rest of the quarterback room at Alabama, and then Ohio State and Notre Dame. I mean, those quarterback battles seem like they're going to go up right until week 1. There doesn't really seem to be any movement there. And then Tennessee, it's pretty clear at this point. It's Joey Aguilar and Jake Merklinger, and Aguilar was taking snaps, I think, yesterday with the ones, and then the freshman George McIntyre is kind of just rolling with the threes, and I think that's how it's going to sort itself out. But Aguilar and Merck will definitely keep going for the starting job as it is right now.
Pete, about 2 minutes to our break here. Have you heard anything new on the Rasul Faison situation on your end?
No, I keep calling the right people every day to check in. Marshall has been helpful through the process, but at the same time, from what I've been told, Marshall, there's a new AD. There's a lot of turnover at that athletic department. That has not helped the situation at all. So yeah, and it's tough too, because these attorneys and people involved hear one thing one day and they get excited that it's going to happen, and then it turns into another 2 weeks. So it's super tough to try to put a timeline on it. Obviously, you would hope that we hear something in the next 10 days, so then we're not talking about him not having a decision before week 1.
I do have to ask before we let you go, has the fiance already blitzed you with all the wedding plans? I know you haven't been engaged long, but usually it doesn't take long for all those things to start coming out, and PowerPoints
They've
and presentations and all those kind of things.
But it's all good. It's all good.
Well, again, congratulations to you. That's exciting news, and man, we appreciate your hard work for On3, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you once we get into the season as well.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Again, Pete Nakos of On3 joining us there on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. He brought up the college red zone, which is something that is potentially on the horizon, maybe, but is going to have some hurdles to jump through, as he talked about. We'll discuss that coming up next as the Extra Point and Gamecock Central takeover roll on from Firehouse Subs in Elgin, going until noon here on the game.
this building. It will be the NFL Red Zone. I don't think fans will see any difference to that. Obviously, in the context of that, though, ESPN purchased the Red Zone name, and they will be able to utilize that for other sports, college football and other things. And I think that could be an exciting thing for our fans also to see a Red Zone maybe in college football or other sports. That's something that they now own and have the ability to do that. But as far as Red Zone, NFL Red Zone, there won't be any changes for our fans.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point Gamecock Central Takeover. We are live here at Firehouse Subs out in Elgin. Again, store opens up in about 30 minutes. Come by and see us. Grand opening today, by the way. So come break in the new store with us there. You heard Roger Goodell yesterday talking on ESPN in reference to the new deal that ESPN is acquiring a lot of the NFL media rights, which does include NFL Red Zone, as well as NFL having a 10% stake in ESPN now, which is his own other conversation we talked about a little bit yesterday. But he did allude to the fact that we could potentially see a college version of Red Zone at some point in the very near future, though Pete Nakos did bring up a really good point there in our conversation with him a moment ago. A CBA would go a long way with that because as of right now, ESPN does not own the exclusive media rights to all conferences, only the SEC and the ACC. So if you wanted the Big Ten games or, the ones that are on Fox and CBS, you'd need to get all the networks to agree on something to where they could all be in-house and it not just be an ESPN-only type of Red Zone type thing.
Yeah, and I think you could you'd still get some watchability just with the ESPN on because you're talking about such a huge library of games, even just with the ESPN. But to truly create the NFL Red Zone experience, you're going to have agreements with at least one of those other major players to kind of play ball. Ideally, both of them. Now, what that actually looks like, I don't know, man. I think ESPN would obviously have to buy the rights to show those games, and who knows what that even looks like. But this would be maybe one of the rare cases where this would be great. A big move like this would be great for the consumer. A channel like that, I think, has a lot of potential, and we just continue to see. Interestingly enough, to Pete's point, my initial reaction to the Red Zone was not that, this could kind of play into NIL and collective bargaining. Like, I didn't necessarily see those things as overlapping, but considering that the revenue generated by the TV contracts is what led us to the position we're in now anyway, it is kind of fitting that we're here. Like, we would not have NIL. We wouldn't have the coaches making $10 million a year if not for the TV contracts in the first place.
Well, and, you hear a lot of times there's a euphemism for something being difficult that it's going to take an act of Congress. This literally would,
Yes.
and Andy Staples has a really good piece on On 3 about this, but I think it was in the 60s, there was a sports broadcasting piece of legislation that basically, laid out parameters for this. And, the NFL has an antitrust exemption, which is one major reason they've been able to squash any competition, and they're such a monster. College sports, as we know, does not have that, which is another reason why, a lot of the problems that exist in the college sports, the NIL, player payment, organization space, it is because of that. And so, it seems hard to believe that we'll ever get that. So, like a broad antitrust exemption, But what is the solution? Well, if Congress could pass an updated law, a new law, an amendment, whatever it may be, that would allow college sports, all the different leagues to come together, then you could have something like this. And, right now you got the NFL is the NFL, right? They're able to sell their media rights as one package.
Yep.
College sports, of course, is fragmented. You have the SEC, you have the Big Ten, you have the ACC, et cetera, et cetera. Andy makes the argument in his piece that if you got all the college leagues together, that it would kind of be the rising tide that raised all ships, right?
Sure.
Like everybody would make more money if they could come together. That would be a benefit for college sports and for their institutions, but it would also be a benefit for people like us and fans, because then we get to watch something like Red Zone in theory.
Well, and that's something interesting that plays into this as well. And Jack, as Chris said, their high tide raises all ships. But the SEC and the Big Ten, they don't want to help out the ACC. They don't want to help out the Big 12. They want to have this distinct advantage over them, which again kind of goes back to the CBA thing that Pete was talking to us about a few minutes ago. It's like, why would these conferences that look out for their own best interest try and help out one another when they can continue to grow this gap?
That's the thing, and I think this is why, number one, it's going to take years before we get to actually seeing something like this potentially even come to fruition. And look, getting everyone on board might be the toughest part about this, right? Like, you see that everyone can have a piece of the pie, but the way you cut that up is probably what would make or break this sort of thing. So like you said, the SEC and the Big Ten, everyone's looking out for their own selves, like you said, Tyler. But the SEC and the Big Ten are going to want the biggest cut because, they are the main conferences that seem to have a lot of the controlling power and everything. And if they're not getting that, that could be a lot tougher to sell them on the fact of, yeah, let's do that. So there's so many complications with it. Again, you got to get all the networks also involved in this. And I do wonder if we ever just see something like to a point where ESPN just focuses on the ESPN and ABC games that they have, because they could probably get away with just doing that for the time being if they wanted to get this out sooner, and people would still watch it. That's the good thing for them. People would still watch it, so the consumer would still be getting something good out of it. But you're still missing that, like, oh man, where's the Ohio State and the Notre Dames of the world on this little package? That's something that I think would be cool to have, but it may not be possible at the moment right now.
So actually, people may not remember this. There did used to be something called ESPN Goal Line back in the day, which was kind of like their version of Red Zone, of course, only on the ESPN properties. Now, back then, they did not have rights to the SEC package. So the SEC Game of the Week at 3:30 on CBS would not be featured in this. I wonder now, since they do have exclusive rights to the SEC, if even without being able to have CBS, NBC, Fox, they might actually explore this with the contracts they do currently have.
So like an SEC Goal Line.
Pretty much, which again, like
cool.
You have a good audience with that. And hey, if there's 3 SEC games going on at one time, why not watch this and kind of bounce around and get the highlights from all those happening simultaneously?
Are y'all NFL Red Zone guys? Like, first of all, I don't get to watch a ton of NFL.
I've never had the package for Red Zone. I just bounce between games typically on Sunday.
Yeah, that's what
you will now, though, right?
I have the option now. Yeah,
it just comes with ESPN now, right?
I think. Do you have to get the additional
Sunday ticket thing?
I don't know how the new one works necessarily. It is open.
ESPN just bought it, so surely you're not going to have
because it used to be exclusive. It used to be exclusively DirecTV. Then it went to YouTube TV. So I think now, yes, you have the option via ESPN. I'm not sure the specifics on that, but it's open to more people than just, hey, you're one service provider.
The other thing, and maybe this is small, like I'm not trying to overstate it, but I don't know if y'all, if you don't have the Phil Steele setup where you have 16 televisions going at one time on separate TVs. Like I use YouTube TV. They're not a sponsor, but they, you can watch four games at once.
Sure.
So for me, like, I don't know, a goal line is cool because a goal line concept is cool, a red zone concept, whatever you want to call it, because it alerts you to, hey, South Carolina's driving, they're about to go score. There's a minute left, whatever it may be. Like you can imagine last year, if you're not a Gamecock or a Missouri fan and, they put that on and it's the last couple minutes of that game, that would be pretty exciting. It kind of alerts you to it. But I don't know, like, is the value as much as it once was because you can watch so many games at one time, or you can stream across 5 different devices at once? I'm probably kind of overstating it. I would still like to watch it, to be honest with you, if they had something like that.
Yeah, I think what they're probably seeing is there's a huge appetite for something like this. I mean, ESPN is not buying the Red Zone channel for what they paid for it if they're not seeing that, for the casual fan, or even if you're a hardcore NFL fan, the fact that you can watch your team's game in whatever, there's 1,000 NFL slots now. It's not just 1 and 4 on Sunday.
Sure.
You can watch your team whenever they play, and then you turn around and you probably aren't really that dialed into one specific game. You can watch a combination of all the games. And I think for fantasy football people, for people gambling, which is, let's be honest, that's a massive part of this too. It offers a nice little way to just keep up with everything all at once. So I I mean, if we get any type of college red zone in any version, I think it'd be a good step. Now, once you add, if you could add, the CBS and Fox games too, I mean, it might be the most popular channel that exists on a Saturday.
It very well could be. So we'll see what happens with that. So keep an eye on that with the new deal between ESPN and the NFL. I want to remind you once again, the Game Summer Golf Classic is coming 2 weeks from Friday, August 22nd, out at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. Tee time's at 9. Registration starts at 7:30. We're going to have onion sausages for breakfast as always. Firehouse Ups for lunch. Saki's Wine and Spirit providing the mimosa bar. It's going to be a great time. If you want to take part, it's $400 for a team. Give Charwood a call at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up. And we hope to see you out there coming up on August 22nd for the Games Summer Golf Classic. We'll come back and wrap up hour number 1 at Firehouse Subs in Elgin. Irmo's Little League team is headed to the Little League World Series. We'll tell you about that coming up next here on The Game.
2-2. Hit on a line, deep left field, off the wall. 1 run is in. 2 runs will score. Giuliani coming home. Ball game. South Carolina walks it off. Brady Westbrooks, a 3-run double to end it. Huge upset.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point and Gamecock Central Takeover live at Firehouse Subs in Elgin. Tyler West, Chris, and Jack with you on your Thursday. That was the call yesterday afternoon on ESPN as Irmo's Little League team pulls off the come from behind, down 4-0 to Florida, scoring all of those runs in the 6th inning. Brady Westbrooks with the 3-run double to drive in the winning runs. Jack, you and I were doing the show yesterday as this game was happening. And I love Little League World Series anyway. It's even cooler when you have great moments like that. And obviously even cooler when you have a local connection like the Irmo team that's now punched their ticket to Williamsport.
Yeah, it kind of felt like yesterday watching that live while on radio. It's just like the seal was about to break, right? Like you bottom of the 6th, you have bases loaded, 1 out, and it's like you knock out, Florida's top pitcher, really big kid that was just throwing gas, and then you get into their bullpen, and yeah, I mean, it was a really big hit right there by Westbrooks. Again, 3-run double over the head of the left fielder, and really cool moment for Irmo as they're now going to Williamsport, which is probably going to be such an awesome experience for those kids.
I was working in the home office, and I had a couple things that I was really dialed into and was kind of keeping up with the game on social media. The wife and kids were watching it in the living room, which isn't within earshot.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of activity and commotion in there, and happened to finish up something and walk in. I'm like, let me go check on the game. Heard all that, and they were all jumping around going crazy because they had just gotten the game-winning hit. So, I mean, that was clutch, man.
Yeah.
Super awesome to see. And, yeah, Jacob Brown from Florida, he was tough to deal with. I think he had only given up maybe 3 hits on the day, no runs, hit the 85-pitch limit, had to come out, and they took advantage. But he had started to lose it a little bit, like the command, and just huge. I mean, they got obviously some clutch hitting. Our buddy, our family friend, shout out to Preston Ware, who hits leadoff for them. He took a pitch that was a tough pitch to take, great eye, right outside, was able to draw a walk, kind of keep things going with 2 outs. So, man, that was just awesome to see. Happy for those kids.
I mean, that is what every kid dreams of, though. 2 outs, 2 strikes. If you've ever picked up a bat, you have created a similar situation, whether, I mean, obviously you're winning the World Series or something like that, but you've created something similar.
Absolutely.
But rarely, I mean, how many kids will actually be able to experience that on TV?
Yep.
Literally, your season is down to the final strike. I can't imagine the nerves, man. Like, I don't know.
As an 11-year-old or whatever.
Dude, I don't think I would have been able to function. Like, that is impressive. That ball was smoked, too.
Oh, yeah.
So that was not, and you want to see it end on somebody making a play versus, somebody has an error that they're going to think about for the rest of their life. So the fact that it ended the way it did, was awesome. And that was a beautiful swing. That ball was roped. So shout out to them. Like everybody has said, they were getting shout outs from everybody. And shout out to that coaching staff too, man. They were pushing the right buttons because that group did not quit, even being, you're shut out for basically the entire game. And you come back and win, dude. That's impressive on all sides.
What did y'all think about, so the Florida coach decided to walk a run in?
I never liked that strategy. I never liked giving anybody anything.
I honestly didn't see it.
So bases loaded, right? And you've got 2 outs. And I think his name's Joe Giletti comes up. Probably the best hitter. Huge kid.
That's the Barry Bonds approach.
And
that was the kid that started or was pitching, right?
Yeah, I think in that game,
think so.
if not the game before. But, yeah, he pitches also. Plays outfield for him, too. And, he could have ended the game on a swing for sure.
Sure.
So you decide to walk in a run to get to the next guy. And I guess the logic is we got 2 outs. We need 1 guy. I feel better about getting the next guy
Yeah.
than him. But you
Yeah.
walk him in, the next guy comes up, and he made you pay.
See, Jack, I never like giving away free runs in any game, but especially late in a game like that.
Yeah, and ironically, that's the kid that scored the game-winning run in the game.
Yeah.
So that's baseball has a funny way of working itself out in that way. So that's definitely a mistake that I'm sure the coach is probably going to be having to live with here for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and Florida defending champions of the Little League
Yes,
World Series.
yes.
So that's a tough team to knock
That
off.
is a tough pill to swallow,
Yeah,
though, too.
that is.
Yeah.
That for sure is. So that'll get started on next Wednesday, August 13th. They'll be out there in Williamsport. Of course, you got to navigate your way through the United States bracket and then take on, whoever the winner of the international bracket is. Of course, China, Japan, always the toughest teams to beat there. But we're certainly going to be watching them closely and cheering those guys on.
Yep, wishing them all the best. They've been playing a lot of baseball, a lot of travel. That's a lot. And you can that is one of the differences when you're watching the games. I mean, to your point, Wes, like they handle those situations better than I could, but sometimes you forget with how good they are, some of the plays they make, how young they are.
Yep.
I mean, it's very impressive.
It could be the funnest sum of their entire lives. Ramon Robinson going to be joining us coming up next. Talk some Gamecock quarterbacks as the Extra Point and Gamecock Central takeover at Firehouse Subs Elgin rolls on the game. The Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head, Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell along with you here live at Firehouse Subs in Elgin. We're going to be out here until noon. This is quite literally their grand opening, so you can come in and break in the new location with us. I'm going to be enjoying some sandwiches coming up here in a couple minutes. As I always appreciate Larry Chandler and everybody for allowing us to be out here at another Firehouse Subs location. We're going to talk to Ramon Robinson here in just a second as Dave's getting him up on the AAA heating and air phone lines. And he's quite literally working with just about every quarterback in this room for South Carolina, with the exception of Aaron Nolan. He works with Lenore Sellers. He's worked with Luke Doty. He works with Cutter Woods. Like, he knows this room perhaps better than anyone.
Yeah, we have Ramon on almost its exact time last year. And I believe his quote was something to the effect of Gamecock fans are very happy with what they see from Lenore Sellers. And so looking forward to talking to Ramon here about the progress of the North and the other guys in the room.
He's now joining us on the AAA heating and air phone lines. Ramon, first of all, appreciate you taking your time. How you doing today? Doing really good. Again, appreciate you calling in today. We just mentioned it as we were coming back in there that you quite literally may know this quarterback room better than just about anyone, having worked with Luke Doty, having worked with Lenore Sellers, and now working with Cutter Woods as well. So when you look at what South Carolina has at the quarterback position, what's your assessment of this room?
Hey, Ramones West, great to hear your voice, man. Yeah, that prediction about a year ago now here on the show ended up being a pretty good one, about 16. And anybody listening, y'all go check out Ramones Elite Quarterback Academy, especially if you're a parent out there with a youngster who is a QB. Go check them out. Quarterback coach RR17 on Twitter. But Ramon, I'm glad you brought up Luke, man. Beamer said the other day, hey, if a number 2 guy would have to go in, right now it would be Luke. What do you think the qualities are that Luke Doty possesses that would allow him to kind of be that guy who, I think the important thing about being a backup quarterback, there are certain qualities in terms of just being ready, even knowing you may not play this game, that probably fits pretty well with Luke's personality. But what can you tell us just from what you've seen from Luke over the years about how he may fit in if he does end up kind of taking on that backup QB role?
I think what you're getting right now is I kind of look at Luke like a seasoned NFL veteran, like the Jacoby Brissett's and the guys that you see that bounce around the league and be backups here and sign a contract, like the Jameis Winstons. You see that right now, guys that's going on. And I'm missing a few veteran names in the NFL, but they're guys that have that great leadership. They have that command of the huddle. They have the experience to be a leader. They have all the intangibles to be the starter. But we all know that you're drafting quarterbacks every year and you're pouring this big money out there. And it's kind of like how college football is now. But what you're getting from Luke is you're getting the veteran leadership and also the game experience of playing and not just playing in a game, but also starting, and that's what you're getting with him. Like Luke could be right now at any other college right now being a starting quarterback, but he chose to stay at Carolina and do the things he do, whether that was help out and be the jack of all trades of the team. And I salute him for that. I was in that role in high school. Not that I wanted to be in that role, but I was in that role at a point in time in my high school career to where I understand it, but he's that guy that everybody can turn to and lean on when it comes to being positive, being leader, being able to lift everyone up. And what you're going to get with him is he's going to be that guy that's going to be key. He's the key piece in that team to keeping them gel together, and also that ear for Lenoris when he comes off the field, just because he's been in that situation. Nobody on that roster, regardless of what you was ranked in high school, has the experience that Luke Doty has from the mental and the physical part. I mean, the physical part is given, but the mental is the thing that most quarterbacks anywhere have to improve on, and that's one place that Luke can also help out when Lenoris comes off the field in certain situations and being able to, hey, did you see this and see that, or to calm him down. It may be a situation where he blew a fuse, and also to get him back with that short-term memory, because that's the thing that I preach to all of them is always have a short-term memory when it comes to playing the quarterback position. We can't dwell on the things of the past. We have to deal with what's going on right now. And I think he's going to be a very key piece in regards to the quarterback room and the things that he brings there. It's just his veteran leadership and his support.
Ramon, Chris here. Thanks again for taking time, man. Let's talk a little Cutter Woods. Safe to say from everybody we've talked to and what Shane Beamer said publicly, he's made quite the impression in his short time here as a true freshman. The competitiveness, has been talked about. We all saw the arm talent in the spring game. Tell us, just give us a little bit more of a deeper dive on Cutter Woods and his skill set and what he's made of.
Like you say, he's like all of them have came underneath my umbrella, and I instruct a different way than a lot of folks may do. I mean, I would say I'm not for everybody, and I tell people that when they come to training, and I don't run a daycare. And a lot of things that I do, prior to these guys going to college, I try to prepare them for these type of moments. And I think you can kind of see with the progress and the development of the guys who've been at Carolina, it's kind of they just falling right behind each other. You know what I mean? So it's just all of them have been in, critical situations where they had to respond within their career. And I think with everything that Cutter is going to be able to do, he's been able to watch and listen to a lot of things that I've said prior to him going to college, and a lot of the intangibles that he's bringing in. He grew up fast. And when I say grew up fast, not just physical fast, but just the mental part of the game. He started just embracing everything and just understanding what college football is about. And that's what a lot of things that people don't understand is it's not about just playing ball. It's also about getting on the regiment of what your colleges, your college coaches are expecting from you and what you're expecting from them. A lot of things that you used to do in high school, you can't do anymore. But I felt as though once he got all those things under his belt and got on the routine, then he was going to be able to be the guy and showcase what he could do. And I think a big help was that him being able to work out with Lenars prior to that and just kind of filling out the room a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because all these boys have a relationship, and I just think that that's a big part of his development as well, is seeing the success of others and also taking it in, embracing, and grabbing the pieces that they need to grab and put into their toolbox and to help out and advance with their game.
Again, talking to Ramon Robinson of the Elite Quarterback Academy here on the Garner Trust Hour presented by Crane School. He only got about 2 more minutes here before we have to hit a break, but I do want to ask, when you look at Sellers going into his second full year as a starter, what improvements are you looking for him to make from year 1 to year 2?
Well, what I'm looking for is always development, just a stack on top of what he did before. And during my time that I've been with Lenars, and I've been with him a long time, is that one thing I've never seen with him is he go backwards. He's always been a young man that always has built onto whatever success that he has. And that's what I've seen from him just from his high school career. I mean, from the youth all the way up, he's just always improved year by year. And what I expect for him is to continue to improve, continue to develop, continue to get a complete command of the huddle and respect of everybody around him, and just that trust and that feel for the game. So right now, it's like, you're in a wild. He was in the wilderness last year. Now he's clear. He's on the highway. He's driving it straight ahead, and that's what I see right now. He has that tunnel vision to continue to improve on a lot of the success he had from last year. And I'm just looking for him to make everyone else better around him, as though he's been doing forever. And that's the biggest word I've said for him. Let him make others around him better. And that's what I feel will happen this year as he's gotten more comfortable within the offense. And your success is only going to be as good as you know the offense, and your receivers, your offensive line, and you just, honestly, at the end of the day, knowing your team. And that's also with the offensive coordinator knowing his player. And that's what I see right now, is that I look for him to continue to stack on, get more comfortable. And I know he's more comfortable with everything around him with the pieces that they've added, and add on those true freshmen that's coming in. I think the Gamecocks and Lenars will have a great season, and I think he's going to do a lot of great things.
Well, Ramon, we love the work you've done with these quarterbacks, and we're excited to see them in action. Appreciate you taking your time this morning.
Yes, and I will say it once again, let 16 be 16.
That's right. Again, Ramon Robinson of the Elite Quarterback Academy. We'll continue to talk quarterbacks as the hour rolls along, live from Firehouse Subs in Elgin on your Thursday on the Game.
Everyone knows that AAA Heating and Air has the best HVAC replacement options in the Midlands with their guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. They're hard to beat when you need a new system. But did you know they also have great deals for repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're strapped for cash, AAA Heating and Air can help. They'll get your repairs done with payment options for up to 12 months and also no credit check required. That's right. So if you are the homeowner, all you need is a valid bank account. That's it. That's all you need. So don't wait. Call AAA Heating and Air today and get your comfort back on track. AAA Heating and Air, comfort you can trust.
Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler, West, and Chris. We're live out at Firehouse Subs in Elgin, 572 Spears Creek Church Road. Quite literally another grand opening today. We are, I guess, testing the first sandwiches this location has made.
Testing, yes.
Testing.
We have also tested for the second time the fries. They do have the fries at this location.
Yes, I do see that. My mouth is watering looking at them.
Just as good, I would say even better than they were the first time. Got the Firehouse Hero Sauce, which is outstanding. We have an array of sandwiches. I just knocked out a few bites of the triple stack Carolina Gold version.
Yeah, we got the promo poster in front of us. Looks delicious.
Yes. So, and then we're going to let you take a little break on the next, next break here.
Okay.
You can get you a sandwich, get you
All
some
right.
fries. So it is outstanding. So appreciate Larry having us out here.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate Ramon Robinson joining us in that last segment as well. Obviously talking about this quarterback room that, again, he probably knows better than anyone, having worked with 75% of it in terms of quarterback development. Speaking of quarterbacks, did you see the little scare they had down in Baton Rouge yesterday in terms of some misinformation getting out there about Garrett Nussmeier?
Yeah, I did. And Wes and I can both speak to this. What I'm wondering about the Nussmeier situation was it completely made up online rumor, or was it like he did come down funny in practice and then somebody took that and said it and then it got blown up into this thing that's not? Because let me tell you, Wes and I have heard since we've been doing this 15, 16 years, we have heard of some situations where you hear about a guy getting injured and the guy's actually injured.
Right.
We have also heard more times than I can count, that guy's injured and he's out for the year. And then you're just, you check into it and you're like, it's completely, you can't even figure out where it began,
Dude, so Shea Dixon, I was stuffing my face. Have y'all mentioned Shea's reporting?
Not yet.
not Shea's
I
reporting.
mentioned there was a scare of some misinformation out there.
Yeah, and so Shea came in, set the record straight, covers LSU for On 3, shameless plug. If you're a Gamecock Central subscriber, you can read all that stuff too. But I've known Shea for 10 years. He's plugged in there. But, man, I did not envy him one bit because I know the exact situation he was in, because you start getting it goes out on Twitter, then you start getting texts. Hey, man, is this real? Hey, what's up with this? And, dude, every preseason camp, there's at least one scare like this where you have to start tracking down an injury. People don't like talking about injuries either. It is probably one of the worst parts of the job. So kudos to Shea tracking this thing down. The other thing about it is too, and again, Shea is a veteran, so I'm sure he kind of weeded through it. You got to be careful though about people saying, he'll be fine. There's nothing to it, but there really is something to it.
Yep.
But I mean, dude, this went around Twitter last year in the spring. I feel like one of South Carolina's marquee guys. Oh, he's out for the year, and there was literally nothing to
Yeah.
it at all.
Didn't miss a game.
Yeah, did not miss a single game. So Shea, and again, this is all credit to him. He said basically that he was not carried off the field. I didn't quite understand. He said following a live play that he was, quote, walking off some contact. And at first I was like, walking. I took that as like hey, walk it off. Like he got bumped. And then Kelly basically said, you're out the rest of the practice. Like, get out of here. Like, we're not – this is stupid. We're not getting you hurt, basically. And Shea says multiple sources said Kelly's decision was, quote, strictly precautionary. So does your tend to go up just a little bit like, all right, was there something to it? Yes, but I could also see a head coach being like having that little scare and then being like, no, dude, go to the locker room. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know. Maybe he got rolled up on or something like that and came up walking funny. It's like, hey, walk it off. And then, okay, don't push it. Let's not further this. Go sit out the rest of practice. And again, it kind of takes off from there. You guys kind of alluded to something that happened last year. Is there another pivotal, bad piece of information gets out there that people run with that you guys were drowning in trying to correct over the years?
God, there's been so many, man. I mean, so, and by the way, judging by what we saw on the Netflix doc, if somebody did roll up Nussmeier, then somebody got cussed out on the spot.
Yeah.
I guarantee. I guess when we talked about Luke earlier, going into the year, Beamer's first year, when Luke was the projected starter, he was going to be the starter, and he got hurt in practice. Chasing that one down. Now, there obviously ended up being something to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember chasing down. A lot of people forget, dude. Marshawn Lloyd comes in, highly, highly recruited guy, gets hurt in practice, hurts his knee. And I remember chasing that one down. And, all right, is this true? Is it not? You never want to hear non-contact and knee.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm pretty sure, it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure that was what we heard pretty quickly on Marshawn, like, hey, non-contact, nobody even knew what happened, and then he was just out of there. So that's what comes to mind for me. I'm sure there are others.
I mean, we were talking about this one the other day, kind of way back, but wasn't there? I may be mixing up two stories, Wes, but there was the report that came out that South Carolina was hiring a certain coach and that he had bought a house. The whole, almost like the whole John. Did you know John Gruden has farmland in Tennessee,
right?
Type thing, and it was like, hey, this coach is being hired. I have a realtor source in a very not a message board post, in a story, it came out. It was a Muschamp, maybe as an assistant under Spurrier, something like that happened, and you're sitting there going, all right, so there are a lot of dead ends that sometimes you have to run down where you're like, I don't even know how this thing got started.
Well, shout out to Shea Dixon of the Bengal Tiger for getting that squared away, because again, you see that I saw it on Twitter first and people running with it. I'm like, okay, let's see what the actual deal here is. Went to the Bengal Tiger and they squared it away. But yeah, that probably sent a little bit of panic through the collective fans with LSU down there yesterday. That by all indications, Garrett Nussmeier is okay, and of course will be a tough challenge for South Carolina coming up early on in the season. Speaking of early in the season, kick things off against Virginia Tech in 24 days. We'll talk with Colby Crawford of VT Scoop from 24/7 coming up next. Get a preview of the Hokies as the Garnet Trust Tower presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating rolls along on your Thursday live from Firehouse in Elgin on the Game.
All right, guys, let me tell you about our friends over at Classic Roofing. If you need more information, classicroofingsc.com, 803-590-7870. Go to that website, classicroofingsc.com, hit the free estimate button. It's going to pop up a little survey that you have to fill out, and they're going to come out to your home and give you this free estimate and let you know, first of all, how much life do I have left on this roof? Are there any issues that I maybe need to know about? Are there any small issues that could grow into bigger issues? And what do I need to do to go ahead and fix those issues right now? Obviously, if you own a home or own a business, that roof is one of the most important factors of that home or business. You want to make sure that it's completely taken care of. That is not always easy, but our friends at Classic Roofing can make it absolutely easy for you. They have done the same for me. They've been at my house. I worked with them about this time last year, had a fantastic experience. You can do the same by calling them 803-590-7870.
And welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Todd West and Chris live at Firehouse Subs in Elgin here on your Thursday, getting you ever closer to the start of the 2025 college football season. Joining us now on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines to discuss South Carolina's week number 1 opponent, The Virginia Tech Hokies from BT Scoop with 24/7 is Colby Crawford. Colby, first of all, appreciate you taking your time this morning. How are we doing today, man?
I'm doing good. Actually, just got back to the 757 area where a couple of Gamecocks are from after driving back from Blacksburg late last night. Saw the text, so thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate it. We've obviously been hyping this game up a lot as we get closer to it coming up here in a couple weeks. And, I kind of look at this from Carolina's perspective that they get the opportunity to open up against a Power 4 opponent. Of course, you have the Beamer family ties in there. And, we're excited for what's hopefully going to be a promising year coming off the 9-win season a year ago. How does Virginia Tech view this opening week matchup against the Gamecocks?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head from a lot of different aspects there. It's obviously the Beamer Bowl, going to be a lot of, even however much they downplay it or lean into it, there's going to be a lot there, obviously, with Shane's father being who he is at Virginia Tech, got the statue right outside the stadium. And if you look even just beyond that, it's a massive Power 4 neutral site matchup to start off the season. It's what all these players dream about. You get recruited to these type of schools to go and do that. Obviously for South Carolina, coming on the heels of a really big season, a couple plays away from looks like a college football playoff. You've got a potential Heisman winning candidate already in talks coming back. You've got obviously one of the best defensive players who popped last year. A lot of really hype. And, for a Virginia Tech team that is really coming in sort of under the radar. Last year had just call it what it is, an underwhelming, lackluster 6-6 performance, kind of been the standard the last couple of years. And you lose a lot of your top-end talent to the league or to the transfer portal, and you bring in 2 brand-new coordinators. It's a whole lot of new. So I think it's going to be a really good test early for both teams. And, yeah.
Colby, Chris here. Thanks for taking time, man. So I want to expand on what you just hit on, and that is a lot of roster turnover from Virginia Tech, right? A lot of impact guys that have left. We know they have a lot of turnover. We know that they also brought in a very large, between the transfer portal and their recruiting class, brought in a very, very large class.
Yeah.
So can you give us any sense of maybe the disparity between what went out in the portal, what came in? Is there a positive vibe about what they brought in to replace some of those losses, or is it just more of an unknown?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely an unknown quality to it, but when you talk about that large number, just to put it hits 49 guys. So essentially 50 guys out of the 105 are brand new. You got 19 high school guys and then 30 transfer guys coming in, a massive overhaul. And when you talk about massive departures, a lot of the guys that hit the exit door weren't too terribly sad to see. Obviously, you lose left tackle Xavier Chaplin to Auburn. That is someone you 100% want to back. You lose a couple guys like Monsoor Lane to LSU, but the thing that the vibe around camp so far as they've started is that they've increased their depth at the positions they wanted to. Maybe not the top-end talent, but they have the depth and the buy-in they're looking for. Now, that's all good and well. It's preseason camp. That's exactly what you expect to hear, that everyone's bought in. But it just seems like everyone is moving the right direction this year. Everyone's sort of following the right direction. It's on the offensive line, talking to those guys yesterday at Media Day. They felt like last year, a lot of guys were sort of playing for themselves, and right now, at least in camp, it's 5 guys operating as one. And that's sort of the general consensus that they had a massive overhaul, not only at the coordinator position, which I'm sure we'll get into, but also in strength and conditioning. Added a new strength and conditioning coach in Jarrett Ferguson this offseason. And I think that really, really brought the guys together this summer. It's definitely the closest this team's been. Last year, they called on that the offense and defense wouldn't even talk to each other, just off the field, outside hanging out. Now, there really is a brotherhood. Now, will that contribute to more wins or more success on the field? I don't know. But it's finally getting to that point where the guys that Brent Pry's recruited are getting onto the field and stepping up into leadership roles. The older regime players are gone now, and it's the guys that they brought in through high school now leading. A guy like Aiden Green is it's kind of crazy because he still sort of feels like the young guy. He's always like the guy who's been next up, but now he's sort of stepping into that leadership role at wide receiver. The guy on the defensive side of the ball at linebacker, Caleb Woodson, who I think is going to have a pretty good season this year. A lot of hype around him at camp, is also stepping into those leadership roles. So some guys who sort of feel like they've been put on the back burner in past years are really stepping up and flourishing into those roles now.
Hey, Colby, you alluded to it. Let's dive into it. Philip Montgomery, new offensive coordinator. There is obviously a resume there. We've seen what he's done at other places, but what early little tidbits have y'all been able to get in terms of what his approach is going to be on offense? Is this going to be kind of the Baylor offensive scheme, so to speak, or what maybe insight can you provide on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a relatively good assessment. I think it's going to be really balanced, and he's going to tailor it to what Kyron Jones can do. He's going to try and make it as simple and easy as on Kyron Jones, the quarterback, and try and make it an offense that fits him. You know, obviously want to utilize his legs, utilize his passing ability, has a strong arm, a couple reads, and then go. I feel like at times last year tried to do things that didn't fit the scheme, and realistically this year, if you're looking at it, the team will go as far as Kyron Jones can take them, health-wise, playing-wise. And when he's playing good, you saw at the end of the 2023 season, they went on a run, finished 5-3 in the ACC, and he played really nicely down the stretch. 17 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, completion percentage right a little over 60%. That's sort of what you can expect. So it's going to be a balanced attack. And, yeah, I mean, mixing in the run, the pass, definitely going to want to push the ball down the field as well. You heard that early, which is a little bit different than Virginia Tech last year. They had a lot of passes around the line of scrimmage, a lot of dink and dunk stuff. So it's definitely going to be balanced, but tailored to the quarterback position for sure.
Again, talking to Colby Crawford of VT Scoop 24/7, get insight on the Hokies ahead of the matchup in 24 days. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. I watched your live yesterday recapping media days and the latest with practice, and you mentioned something about the defense. They bring in Sam Seifkiss as the defensive coordinator, replacing Chris Marvay from a year ago, and you said he was simplifying things. Was there a thought that Marvay had too much of a complicated defense, and maybe that's why they were struggling a year ago?
Yeah, that was definitely part of it. You saw guys sort of – it's definitely good when you're out there watching defensive guys and they're thinking before they're just playing fast to the ball. And you saw that at times last year, people tying up their feet. Even though the numbers sort of suggested the defense was, I guess, in a decent percentile, there were definitely some plays left out on the field. And they go to the ranks, and in the offseason, everyone's like, big defensive coordinator search. And then you see this linebackers coach for the Arizona Cardinals, only 32, 33 years old, Sam Seifkiss. Everyone's like, who's this? And then you see him. He's a very, very intense guy. He knows a bunch of football. Coached at Wofford, coached at UW lacrosse in Wisconsin, like someone who's or UW Platteville. He's been around football, but he's still young. But man, he's been around a lot of really good coaches. And their catchphrase for the defense is motor and violence. He's going to bring multiple fronts. They're definitely keeping this under wraps because it's sort of called the mad scientist, where he's got obviously the Arizona Cardinals defense is known for that 3-high safety look. What they do with Buda Baker sort of being that just versatile hybrid playmaker, odd front, maybe even the bear front, having guys be able to go from the edge, inside out, drop back in the linebacker, drop back into coverage, that nickel position, really just having to be versatile. And then having really big, strong linebackers. And that's sort of what he was looking for in the summer transfer portal. Went and beefed up that defensive line, got some of those true nose tackle type guys, and then got more depth at linebacker. But it's definitely been interesting to see just the change in technique teaching over the summer and into fall camp, and just the way also with the strength and conditioning, the way these guys' bodies look from a year ago. I think he's really got 11 guys operating as one. And even though picking up a new scheme, they've worked through all the installs 4 to 5 times. And honestly, I think one of the best traits about him so far is his ability to instruct. There's really not guys who look confused out there or having second doubts. They're just being able to play fast with effort, which I think is all you really want to see right now in camp.
Colby, last minute here before we got to hit a hard break. Just a general question about Virginia Tech and the fan base. What will constitute success this year? I know that's hard to get a pulse on an entire fan base, but what does Brent Pry have to do this year to, keep things stable in Blacksburg? Yeah, I mean, definitely stable. You got to see improvement. You can't go 6-6 again. I think things that the whole fan base can get around is 8 wins. Eight regular season wins. You got the fan base bought in. 7 wins, I think, is that would be a decent standard. But 8 wins, I think you got the fan base back and go to a bowl game and compete there. But if you get to 8 wins, I think the fan base can see things moving in the right direction.
Well, it should be a fun one, Colby. We appreciate your time, and can't wait for kickoff in 24 days.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Again, Colby Crawford of VT Scoop with 24/7 there covering the Hokies ahead of that matchup coming up in a little over 3 weeks. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Crane Cooling and Heating at Firehouse in Elgin on the game. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler West and Chris again out here at Firehouse Subs in Elgin, 572 Spears Creek Church Road. We're going up to noon. Well, Wes and Chris are. I got to leave here at the end of this segment to get to the other live that's happening today out at Minuteman Press. But plenty more time for you to come by and enjoy delicious Firehouse Subs and help them open up this new location. This is, I think, our 3rd or maybe 4th grand opening we've done. So we appreciate Larry for trusting us to help open the doors of these new locations.
Well, they have definitely gotten some sandwich making in.
Yes.
We have fully opened it with the spread that we have out here, and We got some folks coming in now. Got some families coming in here, enjoying some delicious Firehouse subs.
If you've heard a collective welcome to Firehouse, that's what
Yes.
happens every time somebody walks in. So.
Yes, it has been fun. There's a big, again, 572 Spears Creek Church Road in Elgin. Put it in your maps. Come on out. They'll be here all day up until the evening.
Our guy Josh himself set up the big inflatable outside.
Yeah, big inflatable fireman holding a Firehouse sub.
Yes.
So you can't miss it.
Yes, absolutely. So, again, I got to bounce here in a couple minutes, so we got to get to our 24 days.
Can't believe Tyler's just leaving us.
I know.
Well, you know, duty calls. Got to go to other places, do other things.
Kind of rude.
It's a busy day, guys. It's a busy day. So, 24 days until kickoff. The current wearer number 24 is Jalen Kilgore. Let's go back to 2023 against North Carolina. He is thrust into action very early on when Nicky Mirori is injured in that game. How many tackles did Jalen Kilgore finish his first career game as a Gamecock with? Well, Price is right this.
Price is right, but you can go over.
You can go over as long as you're closest.
You don't.
Yeah, that's not Price is right.
Yeah.
Well, close enough. Price is right.
Closest
My
ones.
version of Price is right.
I am going. Let's see. First game. I got two numbers in my head. Not extremely confident either. I'm going 11.
I will go 9.
11 is the closest. The correct answer is 12.
I almost guessed
good.
14. Okay.
12 tackles.
I knew
in the
he.
first game.
I was almost positive it was double-digit tackles, so that's why I went there.
Came in and made an impact. A bonus question. What was his season high in tackles that year? What game? Don't have to give me the number, just the game.
2023 season high. Missouri.
I got Georgia.
Tennessee. 15 tackles against Tennessee.
God.
Okay.
I mean, and much like Nicky Minowari, thrust into action very quickly and really has never left the field since then.
They had the same exact
Yeah.
freshman experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get in there. Good luck. And then they look ready, inevitably.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like Peyton Williams, not as a freshman, but when he's come in on the rare occasion that Nicky hasn't been on the field, like he's looked ready. You know, like Torian Gray.
Played the second half of the ball game.
Yeah, he does a really good job of getting his guys ready early,
Yeah.
you know, in their careers. So that definitely stands out. Where are we at now? Is West still 1 point ahead, I think?
He is 2 points ahead. So it
Even
is,
with that?
even with
That's
that,
right, because he got.
because it is 19 and a half to 17 and a half.
I thought I got some sort of bonus yesterday, though.
I thought I added that in.
Okay. This might be under dispute.
I typically, as soon as you
Okay.
get an
I
answer
believe
right,
you.
I add it in. So you're still trailing a little bit. There's time. We got not weekends, obviously, but 20 some odd days to answer
Okay.
questions.
All right. Yeah, the next one will be, well, we'll have 23.
Yep.
And then
Again,
we'll have 21.
I already have an idea in my head of where we're going. I think you guys might be able to figure out, some of the lower numbers as we talk about a lot of skill position
Have
guys.
a Gerald Kilgore question for tomorrow.
It's not a Jared Kilgore question,
Okay.
though.
It's Tremaine Tyler.
Good guess. Good guess. But no, I discovered 23 yesterday, so I think hopefully I'll have a good one for that coming up tomorrow. And tomorrow as well, told me we're going to talk with Gary Stoken, correct, to the Peach Bowl and the athletic kickoff.
At 11:30, you will
11:30.
get to ask
I will-
about
I will ask
Enter
him.
Sandman, 2001,
Yes.
Sandstorm.
Yes. Well, last time when I talked to him in media days, he had to sell me on the idea of neutral site games because I'm very much pro home and home because I would much rather this game be in Columbia or Blacksburg. But, did a good job convincing me of that. So
You called him
hopefully-
out to his face.
Well, no. I said I am always pro home environment. What is the benefit of these games being played at neutral sites? And he gave me the layout of the money and all that kind of stuff, what it does for the city and the schools, which I get still. I'm always going to be pro home and home, but he made a very
Wait, what it
fair
does for
argument.
the city of Atlanta?
Yeah,
City of Atlanta, yes.
that doesn't help Blacksburg, Virginia, or
Yeah,
Columbia,
that-
South Carolina.
Yeah, good
that-
for them.
That
Are
was,
they-
that was his standpoint, and I wasn't gonna argue on that. But again, I would much rather this game be played here or up in Blacksburg, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. But nevertheless, it should be fun in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and we'll get those games too in the
Yeah.
future. Good to know a lot of Gamecock fans itching to go up to Blacksburg. And,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to make the trip. So get Virginia Tech here. That'll be fun. But I'm looking forward to Atlanta too because it's game one. Yeah, but I don't care where they play it.
Let's play them in a parking lot.
Yeah.
Play them at the middle school down the street.
Ireland.
No matter. Ireland, yeah.
If they want to do that, that'd
Yeah,
be
well,
fine.
You know, the SEC's smarter than to send their teams overseas.
Hopefully.
Yeah. If they start finding out that it's a big money
If it's a
maker,
moneymaker,
it's gonna be happening.
Well, they're the
For
they're
now.
they're the last Power Four conference to not do that up to this point. So they're holding out better than everybody else.
At some
has.
point. At some point, it's coming.
they are analyzing the output.
Data. Yeah.
Listen, I gave Sankey a lot of credit in media days for pushing back on that, saying, "Hey, we know where our money's made, where our bread's buttered in the backyards here in the SEC." So hopefully that doesn't change.
Yeah. Hopefully not.
So yeah, we'll see. Again, 24 days away from kickoff. There's your 24 days trivia question. I should ask, what have you guys got coming up in the 11 o'clock hour?
We'll figure it out.
We're gonna do a review of every Firehouse sub sandwich that we've eaten so far,
Fair.
and the fries.
Yeah.
Again.
The fries, and this location does have the fries, which are phenomenal. I got to try the smoke and barbecue triple stack with Carolina Gold a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Phenomenal.
Highly recommend.
Almost need a fork for that thing.
Have
You
you
do.
tried the other triple stack?
I think I tried that last time.
Yeah, they had it last time.
Got a favorite of the
Yeah,
two?
I like the Carolina Gold a little bit better.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Last year, more of a regular.
I'm a classic.
You're a
Classic kinda guy.
Classic kind of guy.
Yeah, fair enough. But again, one more hour coming up. I got to hit the road to get to Minuteman Press, where Jack and I will be doing the halftime show today from 12 until 3. So that's coming up. It is the Garnet Trust Tower presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating here on your Thursday on the game.
I want to tell you about our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating. Of course, they are the presenting sponsor every Tuesday and Thursday of the Garnet Trust Hour here on the game. KrantzCooling.com. That's KRANTZ, cooling with a K. KrantzCooling.com. That's where you can go to learn more about their services, or you can give them a call, 803-672-3224. If you go to their website at KrantzCooling.com, you can schedule a visit right online for your convenience. You can even text them with any questions that you may have about any of your HVAC needs at your home or your business. Since 1983, the team over at Krantz Cooling and Heating has been providing local, reliable HVAC service. They can do repairs, they can do maintenance, they can do installation. I trust them to come out to my home as my HVAC provider. I send them to all my friends and family. They can do the same for you. So again, KrantzCooling.com. Go there today to schedule a quote. KrantzCooling.com.
All right, what's up? Welcome back in. We are live. Firehouse Subs here in Elgin. Grand opening. Isn't that a Jay-Z line? Grand opening, grand closing.
Oh yeah,
And we've got Jay-Z come. We planned that.
reanimation or whatever.
Yeah, Tyler is leaving us, but you can still hear from Tyler at noon. He'll be on with Jack. I'm Wes, of course. Chris closing this thing out here. Final hour at Firehouse Subs. Come out and see us. We have tasted about everything they have to offer. We've hit the Firehouse Subs buffet. Shout out to Larry, who always does a great job of taking care of us here. But Chris, man, we are closing in on 1 week of camp. So we've started to roll into it. And, you know, I think you start to see storylines emerge. You start to see you start to hear little things too. Some of it you just expect. Like, you know, we had Pete Nakos on earlier. What are you hearing from camp? Well, Lenore Sellers and Dylan Stewart. They're pretty
Shocker.
good. Yeah. And you like to start to dive into the other details. But, man, offense and defense, a few guys have spoken so far. You know, shout out to our listeners out here, by the way. Lots of folks here at Firehouse. Chris, what stood out to you so far from what we heard from offense or defense earlier this week as some of those guys spoke?
Yeah, I'll start with offense because that was Tuesday. You know, Boaz Stanley talked, and always fun to hear from him. Just a super mature. I think it was his 21st birthday, but already a guy who's I think married. Like he's just one of those guys who is an older soul and has played a lot of football, has played a lot of positions, but South Carolina really eyeing him as the center this year. And I've always, by the way, thought it was interesting. Shane Beamer is normally not one to say, this guy's going to be our starter, right? Like he'll do that at spots. We know Lenore Sellers is a starter, Dylan Stewart, a bunch of other guys. But typically in a spot that doesn't come into a season completely settled when you have a returning starter, a lot of times he keeps that competition going. And not to say that center is not still somewhat of an ongoing competition, but Shane Beamer was not shy about saying Boaz is going to be hard to beat there, right? So looking to him to be maybe one of the leaders of this team. I thought it was interesting that he said, hey, from spring until now, new faces, some new guys coming in on the O-line, some guys growing up, getting a year older, him being a first-year transfer guy into here, that he feels like the chemistry of that group, how they gelled, has gotten a lot better from spring until now, which I think you'd like to hear if you're a Gamecock fan. And also just about the conditioning. You know, we've all seen the photos going around, body transformations. A lot of the athletes are putting those out. Boaz Stanley said, look, I feel like I personally am a lot better conditioned. And he even went into some detail, kind of geeked out a little bit on it in terms of, hey, when you're on the field and it's the fourth quarter and you're tired trying to make a call, like that can be tough. And so now he feels a lot better conditioned and a lot more able, you know, to I think go through those things and go through the grind of a college football season.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a mental aspect to the physicality and the conditioning of things. Like if you, I mean, go to the gym, have a really, really, really tough workout, and then right after you're done, have somebody ask you to solve a math problem. Like your brain is not fired. Like you're in survival mode at that point. Like if you're sucking wind, you're in survival mode. And so I think that's not something we really go that deep with or talk about much, but it is a pretty interesting point from Boaz. Just kind of pointing out those things being connected and, you know, especially at center, man, really at all positions, but center is kind of one of those cerebral positions where you do have to not just know the calls a lot of times, but you need to know certainly where in run plays, especially where about everybody around you is going to be. I think that's important. And, you know, it is a little bit fascinating to me that Beamer did at the end of spring camp, just go ahead and throw that out there. Like, hey, this guy, he didn't say, hey, this guy's our center, but just the fact that he went as far as to say he's the leader at center exiting spring told me, and it's something we'd heard as well, but it kind of confirmed, all right, he has really created some distance between himself and some other guys. And, I think the fascinating thing about that is this is something Cole Kubelik has talked about on more of a regional level. Man, they've done such a good job of finding transfer portal guys who maybe aren't as highly recruited, but are performing well for them. And I know Boaz has got to go do it on the field, but just by coming into an SEC program, kind of almost winning the center position to exit spring that quickly. I mean, this is a guy, it was not even reported that he was in the portal.
Yeah.
He was in the portal for weeks, and it had not been reported that he had entered the portal, from Troy. And next thing you know, he's committed and then signed with South Carolina. So when you want to talk about under the radar portal recruits, we maybe have not talked about Boaz enough, just in terms of, once again, fitting that mold of finding a guy that appears is going to make an impact, who was not highly known out of the portal.
Yeah, Carolina's had success with both types of guys, and kind of everything in between. Not all of your transfer portal gets are going to be, a Spencer Rattler. They've had a Spencer Rattler. They've had a guy like Sean Murphy, who was a former big-time recruit who'd been a couple places. And you were talking about this, earlier today, Wes, this morning. Hasn't worked out yet, but there are probably kind of some reasons for that, injuries being one of them. And I think it's given South Carolina really some really good fuel to the fire on the recruiting trail, specifically in the transfer portal, because they have several cases where they can point to, hey, here's a guy who was at some big time school or at a smaller level, or was at a couple schools before he came here. He came here as his final stop and flourished, and we can't say for sure that that's going to happen with, say, a Sean Murphy or even Boaz yet. But they have had a lot of success with transfer portal development, even for some guys that have been to some big time schools, who are highly thought of. And I mean, that's another thing that stands out. Sean Murphy yesterday was talking about being at Bama and Florida State, but then he was comparing the strength and conditioning program here at Carolina and saying, I've never done anything like this. It's the best, So they've had success with a lot of different types of guys here at South Carolina in terms of developing them. But I think Boaz, you're right. He really flew under the radar as a transfer guy. I think ended up being a key get. And, we heard very early after he got here, this is a guy that honestly has been maybe even a pleasant surprise, like in terms of just how he can move. He got bigger. I think he got stronger. He can move even better than they thought, a versatile guy, but really kind of potentially the perfect fit for what they're looking for at center.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And, I don't want to necessarily go to this place yet and say that, hey, the O-line is going to take another, big step forward, because for one, you get accused every year of saying the O-line is going to be great, even though I don't think anybody is necessarily actually saying that around here. So I'm not quite ready to open us up to that yet. But I do think, man, when you look at what they are putting together on that offensive line, and, I tell you, we had one of our posters on the Insiders Forum too. He made a point that I think there's something to. South Carolina with these NFL-style offenses, and certainly we heard all the things about Satterfield. But even with Dowd to an extent, you are putting a lot on the offensive line. Like, you're putting a lot on their shoulders, I feel like. And you do kind of wonder if Shula is able to continue to streamline this thing and make it a little bit more digestible. And you're now talking about a Josiah Thompson going into year 2 after starting as a true freshman. You did add a transfer in Boaz, like we're talking about, but regardless of who is at right tackle, if it's Kaysen, if it's Shivers, if Tree potentially gets in the mix there, you're talking about guys that have played. Nick Sharp, yes, transfer, but highly, highly veteran guy. I do wonder, and again, it's early. They just put the pads on, but I actually don't feel like fans, because they've been burned a little bit, put typically high expectations on the offensive line anymore. I kind of like what we're hearing so far about that group, with the caveat that it is still very early.
It's a dominant group coming. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write it down.
No, no. I mean, I'm with you. I think there are some reasons to feel encouraged by that. And I was talking to Nick Barrett, who's, of course, on the other side of the ball, the media day last week, just kind of getting his thoughts. Like, Nick, hey, you've been here a while. You've seen these guys. You've practiced against these guys for years, and what's your perspective? And he's a pretty straightforward guy, and he thought that, number one, from last year, where they were improved. I'm not saying it was great by any means, particularly in pass protection. That's the area that Shane Beamer has identified, and we've really got to get better in pass protection, just winning those one-on-one battles, not having so many busts. Nick Barrett said, look, I think that group has not only not had any drop-off, but looks better. So you lose 3 starters on the interior. That's a little bit of a question mark for you. But the good news is they've got some experience, whether it's a guy like Nick Sharp, like Boaz Stanley, that's played a lot of college ball that you can plug in as a transfer, or you've got some kind of so-called homegrown guys like a Tro Ball, Tree Babalade, etc., that's come up in your program for a few years, and you're going to have, I think, a healthy competition at a lot of those spots.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought it was noteworthy what Beamer said about Tro. I guess that was in the day before preseason camp started. He's talking about, hey, our AD is in here getting in his workout, and he's like, this Tro Ball kid shows up in here on his own every time I'm in here. And, I think Tro is a guy, man, you start to see these signs in the offseason. You start to hear little rumblings in the offseason that he is ready to take a step forward. And I will say, if he ends up locking down a starting job, which I tend to think he is on his way to doing, then it does say something about him, man. He has had a different path so far. Came in, as has been well documented, he did play as a true freshman. I'm sure if you play as a true freshman, you're thinking, all right, I'm set. I'm going to go play my second year too. I'm going to be a starter. And it didn't happen last year. So to stick it out, to stick around, to not just be like, I'm going to get ticked off and go to the portal, I think it says something about him. It shows you can still develop guys on the offensive line. I think it is harder than ever to develop guys on the offensive line because the portal is so tempting for guys to just head on off to if they're not playing as much as they want early in their careers.
Yeah, it is. And O-line's a developmental position. I mean, Beamer talked about this a little bit when Cam Pringle, departed the program. Cam Pringle was in the 2024 recruiting class. He redshirted last year. And yes, it is true that kind of coming out of spring, the prospects for Cam Pringle to play a lot this season in 2025 did not look great, primarily because of the guys that we've been talking about here in this segment. He was going to be a guy that was going to have to wait his turn a little more, at least until 2026. And Shane Beamer was a little, I don't know if frustrated is the right word. He just kind of pointed out, hey, I wish he wouldn't have left so early in his career, right? Yeah. So some guys Josiah Thompson came in, started immediately. Part of that was his talent. Part of that was the need, frankly. Tro Ball, Tree, when they played in year one in 2023, that was more out of need.
Yeah.
Not that they weren't talented guys, but that they had a lot of injuries that year, of course. You would prefer to bring guys along and let them play at their own speed and develop at their own speed on the O-line. And it is probably the most developmental position there is out there.
Yep, no doubt. We'll continue our preseason camp conversation live when we come back here at Firehouse Hubs. All right, welcome back in live here. Firehouse Subs, Elgin, South Carolina. Happy 90th birthday, Lee Corsa. Today.
How about that?
I doubt he's listening, but
He should.
happy
He should
birthday
be.
to him. Here live, Firehouse Subs, Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell. Man, we were talking some offense. We were talking offensive line prior to the break there. Let's go back to the defense side. We did talk about this, I guess that was about 3 hours ago now. Linebacker play. One of those spots, and I was on a show yesterday, and they asked me, they're like, hey, man, should Gamecock fans be worried about that front seven when you look at what they've lost? And, you know, I kind of framed it like yes and no. I think on paper, until you go prove yourself, then, yeah, if you lose those guys, it is going to be a question. I do think, you know, specifically if we're talking linebackers, and several of those guys spoke yesterday, I think there is some internal optimism about them being able to essentially just reload that room after basically losing their top 4 guys from last year.
Yeah, and you know, J.R. Johnson, by the way, does not – I think Jack asked the question. No, somebody asked the question. J.R. or Fred, do you really care? He doesn't. So either one. Fred, J.R. Johnson, just Fred, just J.R. But J.R. and Sean Murphy, incoming transfer from Florida State, formerly at Bama, both spoke yesterday. And, you know, maybe some people out there are saying, well, you know, players are always going to say good stuff about the team. And look, that there is some truth to that for sure. They're not going to get up there and say, I don't feel good about things. We're not very good. I don't really like what we have in the room. But if you're taking some pieces of what they said and running through that filter, you know, both of them mentioned how athletic they are. I think JR mentioned speed. Sean Murphy more than once threw around the word freaks. And you went earlier, Wes, when we were talking linebackers in the 9 hour, through J.R. Johnson's just like measurables and what he did in camp in high school without the benefit of having now a couple years in the South Carolina strength and conditioning program. This is a huge 6'4", 240-something pound kid who can really run. So you feel really good about the athleticism. The biggest question is, of course, just what they lost in experience, what they lost in leadership. You lose 3 seniors. You lose 3 seniors who were all kind of different in what they brought. What Debo brought versus what Bam brought versus what D. Knight brought were all different. But they all also brought, I think, in different ways, some leadership to this program too.
Yeah, I think, you know, you look at Justin Okoronkwo, it's easy to forget with him. I mean, he's still a young guy.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
too.
Yeah, he comes in as a transfer. And, you know, I think as a guy who you kind of have in your head, like, all right, this guy's going to step in and play. And I think he is. But I think you got to remember also he's got a lot of eligibility left. And you know, this is someone that I was a little bit, I don't want to say surprised, but one of the most interesting nuggets I picked up on him is that he's a thumper, man. Like, this is a physical kid. Was even compared a little bit, and I don't think their skill sets are completely identical by any means. I think they're actually different players, but just in terms of the physicality and the ability to come up and pop you, there's some Debo Williams here, and so that like kind of piqued my interest a little bit in terms of what he has shown, you know, internally. And then, I mean, you look at Willis, who has stuck around and has stayed in the fight, so to speak. And I mean, dude, there's times he has absolutely popped in terms of just that explosiveness, that athleticism. And I mean, it is clear. I mean, it was already clear last year that they decided to go all in on speed and athleticism and traits. It's apparent they have stuck with that thinking.
Well, yeah, and we haven't even mentioned a single one of the freshman linebackers that they brought in, you know, which if you look at traits, like, man, a guy like Donovan Darden, you know, like that guy, I don't know how much he'll play this year. He might not factor in, he might redshirt. Maybe he's a guy that ends up, you look back at the end of the year, and he's played in every game on special teams and maybe a handful of snaps. But they brought in a strong freshman linebacker class. Some of them, guys like A.J. Holloway or like a Josh Smith, maybe a little bit more of like a throwback linebacker that you think of. others like Darden who are just really good athletes that are super versatile and can do a lot of things for you. The good news is that we're not talking about those guys and that they really need one or two of these guys to play a huge role this year. You do have some depth. You also can look to the future of allowing those guys to develop. That was such a theme. Like, it was a theme at times in the Spurrier era. It was a theme at times during Muschamp. Early in the Shane Beamer tenure, we were talking about this earlier. Year one with Shane Beamer, you really probably had your two starters and a primary backup ready, and then you lose one of your starters. So now your third guy is your starter. You don't have a ton of depth. You look back and those guys are playing tons of snaps. Compare that to last year, you felt good about really your top four guys or so out there. Could it be more like that this year? I think athletically, probably. How will it shake out with playing time? We'll see as the season rolls on. But again, the experience and the leadership, that's the question mark you have. You do feel like you have some guys in there that physically, athletically can do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, even before the transfer portal became as active as it is now, you did still have transfers, and you had that stretch where the graduate transfer was like the end-all, be-all. Like, can you find a grad transfer because they could transfer without sitting out? Can you find a grad transfer that could come in and help you? But before all this existed, I mean, if you're Carolina, you would be talking about probably saying JR and Jaron Willis are your two starters, and you'd be going, can we get two of these freshmen ready?
Yes.
It's really where you would be.
Yeah.
And, I think that's kind of illustrates what the portal can mean. Now, maybe Pup Howard is still here, if there's not a transfer portal. So who knows how it would have played out. But it is interesting how times have changed. I also found it fascinating. I asked Clayton White on Media Day the trend about them being willing to take linebackers that don't necessarily play linebacker in high school. And you'll see several guys will be listed as an edge player in high school. They will take them as linebackers. And when we talk about traits, it's interesting. A lot of times we talk about speed. But in their eyes, the absolute first, almost a non-negotiable that they look at that position for holding up in the SEC, he said first thing is size. Like, they just feel like if you do not have, and some of that is, I'm sure, frame. Like, can you add weight? But just like if you're small, they don't really think that can translate to the SEC.
Yeah.
And so they start with that. Then it becomes traits beyond that. Like, can you run? Like, even though you've been playing edge, maybe you have size to play linebacker, can you run? Then the third thing, because he admitted, like, hey, this is a little bit of a difficult projection. And it is a projection. Can you play linebacker? The next thing is football IQ. And I think that was probably the secret sauce. That's the one kind of final factor that has to be there. Do you understand? Like, do you have some instincts to you about the game of football or background knowledge about the game of football that will allow you to make that move to the linebacker position?
Well, Josh Smith's a great example of what you're talking about, and now he did move in high school only for his senior year, but size, yes, if you've seen Josh Smith, checks out. He looks like if he said, here's a junior linebacker on the Gamecocks team, you would believe it. But, man, the thing we've heard about, and super productive in high school, and can run and can move and has the measurables, but you hear about him, football IQ. You hear about how smart he is, just kind of on the board, so to speak, and being able to diagnose seems very advanced there. And, again, I think it's interesting. We're not talking about Josh Smith has got to contribute this year, must have him. If he does, that means he's one of the best guys out there, but it's not as much out of necessity this time.
No doubt. All right, again, we're here live. Firehouse Subs in Elgin. Come out and see us. Got about 30 more minutes since, that we'll be here before we give it back over to Tyler. We come back. The ESPN standalone streaming service. Is it an option for you as a Gamecock fan? Going to hit on that, and then I believe at some point we're going to talk to Larry. But we'll be right back here live. Firehouse Subs. He's Chris. I'm Wes. All right, welcome back in. Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark, Gamecock Central Takeover here live. Firehouse subs, come see us for your lunch here in Elgin. Chris, we got another little viewing window tomorrow for practice. We actually have a viewing window Sunday afternoon, which will sneak up on you a little bit. And scrimmage Saturday, right? We won't be there, but
Close scrimmage.
yeah,
I believe that's correct. Should be first one of the preseason.
yeah, first one of the preseason. This is when I think you really start to hear things. You start to get an idea of what direction these storylines may be headed. And, I thought it was kind of interesting, too. Beamer was asked. I think it was Lulu, who does a fantastic job for the Greenville News. He was asked, hey, when do you need to start to know some answers on some of these position battles? And basically, I think his answer was, hey, about 2 weeks in, and you're turning the page from being 2 weeks in to then about 2 weeks until kickoff is when you want to start having an idea of that. And first scrimmage is always an early kind of moving day for players who are fighting for positions, I feel like.
Yeah, it is. And I think, interesting Beamer said 2 weeks. What we have heard in the past is like second scrimmage,
Yeah.
Tends to be kind of not a cut line, right? But like you were getting a much better idea of where you're going as far as, hey, here's what we think about whether or not this freshman is going to be able to help us this year if he's more likely headed for a red shirt or a position battle. Okay, who's ahead? Is there a guy that's clearly ahead, or is it really, really close?
Mm.
Do we need to make some decisions here? Because you got to think, right now you're in camp mode, you're working on South Carolina. You're trying to get yourself better. You're installing. You're continuing to tinker and tweak things. But eventually, you got to get into Virginia Tech mode. And it is not time to audition people at that point, really.
Yeah. And I think that's why if you are not to continuously go back to the Russell Faison conversation, but that's another reason why it is going to be so important within the next week or two. You would love for it to be like today, obviously, but within the next week or two, like we have run out of time for us to start saying, well, as long as they get an answer by X, Y, and Z, as long as they get an answer by preseason camp, as long as they get an answer, we've eaten up the entire buffer for that sentence to make any sense. They need an answer. I would say, ideally, by that second scrimmage that you're talking about. And this is the wild part of college football, man. You do not have preseason games. Those two scrimmages are really your only two tryouts to go ahead and put yourself in a position to go play game one. Now, I know you have walkthroughs, you have all these other things you do, you have practices, but in terms of just going out there and executing in a game-like scenario, this is it. This is what you have. And so I think for them, coaches don't like to spend much more than that week on one team, I feel like, but they do normally get that little 2 or 3 day head start on your opening opponent.
Yep.
And so I think for Faison, you really want to know where things are, or you kind of have to start getting to the point where you're saying, all right, if Attaway is the starter, which, I think in that scenario he absolutely would be, who's next up? Is it Augustave? Is it Jordan Howell? Is it Matt Fuller?
Yeah, and that, for that reason, not having that like firm pecking order in your mind, you do have to start thinking more about almost like guy number 3 potentially being guy number 2. You have to kind of, if it's not resolved. I mean, we are kind of talking in hypotheticals here, but I think at that point we already have a pretty good sense of if Faison's cleared, that he and Attaway are the top 2 guys, and they're certainly the most experienced on the roster, right? Do you lean more on experience for the next guy up? If Attaway's number 1 heading into game 1 because Faison remains out, that would mean Matt Fuller has not played as much. the other transfer, he has played college football, but not here. Literally just got here this summer. So does that mean, Howell, who's not played a ton, but he's played some, is he kind of that next guy up? So, yeah, you definitely want to get a sense for that. The good news, if you were counting on Faison and he was like a true freshman, he was like the best guy, but he was a true freshman, you would feel, I think, even worse about this situation.
Yeah.
The fact that he has played so much ball and been around and can continue, and can practice at least some,
Yeah.
that does help you.
Yeah. No, for sure. I continue to think, ultimately, watch out for Matt Fuller, man.
Yeah.
Watch out. That's the guy you circle that you say, if it all clicks, he can maybe change the dynamic in that room. And I would say, even if Faison is able to play, even if he's eligible, ultimately Fuller could have his say in that room. I personally think he is that talented. So we'll see if that happens. I tease it on the other side, man. A lot of the, I would say, quote unquote improvements in viewing for people who watch sports are not improvements at all. The streaming, YouTube TV, the Hulu TV, all this stuff that was supposed to one day be the replacement for cable where you don't have to pay as much, most of them cost just as much, certainly as much as you used to pay for cable. And so the new ESPN standalone streaming service, they've announced it's starting actually in exactly 2 weeks, I think it is, August 21st. $30 a month. You get all of ESPN's linear offerings for that one price. If you're a Gamecock fan, and this is not an advertisement, I'm really just, I think the TV stuff and all the different options fascinate me. If you're a Gamecock fan and you truly are only paying for YouTube TV or cable or Hulu or whatever to watch the Gamecocks, this option is actually the best option you have had in years, I would say. $30 a month.
Yeah, and you got a great piece, shout out to you, on Gamecock Central about this. The part I enjoyed was seeing, okay, last year, what would it have been? Every baseball game, most women's basketball games, every single football game, other sports too would be included in that. There would be a few, sprinkled in. Men's basketball games, a few that you couldn't watch, but out of the options that are currently available that aren't the streaming services, their Combs, these other things, if you're looking for something more affordable, if you truly want to cut the cord, like you can't even, I'm cutting the cord. You're going to be paying what you were paying before, probably.
Yeah.
You might just be getting a better package, or you just like a streaming package better. This does seem like a pretty good option.
Yeah, and I think now there's always an if on this stuff. If you're a college football, so let's say you're not paying for that cable or streaming or whatever just to watch South Carolina, you're paying to watch the full college football experience. Is the exact issue that Nakos was talking about earlier with the red zone. You're getting the games that ESPN owns the rights to.
Yep.
You're not getting the games that Fox has or CBS has or anything like that. So, I think for this, then you do have maybe an opportunity there to, if you're a Gamecock fan only in terms of what you want to watch, this could be a big-time option for you. So, all right, y'all, we're going to come back. We're going to close it out here live, Firehouse Subs in Elgin. All right, welcome back in. Firehouse Subs here live. Elgin, South Carolina. Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark, Larry Chandler joining us now. Larry, congrats. Hey. Another opening day here for you. Does it ever get old opening up a new location? Do you get the butterflies before?
Yeah.
It's like kicking off a game or something?
Yeah, last night, you get butterflies before you go to sleep. And this morning, you're like hoping and praying that people come eat with you. So we've had a good flow so far. So hopefully it'll get better and better. So kind of just a soft opening, getting going, except for you guys telling everybody. So
yeah, I was going to say we have we definitely put your crew to work
with
all the sandwiches that you gave us. So
yeah, definitely. So made a good variety for you, right? So
yes,
yeah, so,
as always. Yeah, the buffet, I call it, a Firehouse over here was fantastic, and we have had a lot of folks rolling through here. This is I don't get out to this side of town often. If you haven't been here, like this is a growing. Like a lot of areas in Columbia, this is another growing area in Columbia. But it's beautiful over here, man. Like you have some new things popping up.
Yeah, a lot of business here, brand new, right off exit 82, and so off 520. But yeah, it's a lot of brand new stuff, a lot of new homes being built, and there was already a lot of people live off this exit. It connects over to Clemson Road, and so it's highly populated. So it's a good area for us, I think.
So this is number 17 in the Midlands. Yep. Want to break any news and tell us if any others are coming anytime soon?
Well, there's a couple more spots we're trying to finish the negotiation around Columbia. So I think the people will be happy with them. We can shorten some rumors, shorten some drives. But I got to put ink to paper to make sure it's official, because things have a way to falling off the table sometimes in negotiations.
I think we started when we all started partnering up. What was there, 14? I think
yeah.
So now we're up to 17.
Yeah, I think we've had 3 new ones we've opened. Actually, this is the 4th new one we opened since we've been with y'all. Okay. We opened the 2 in Orangeburg and then Spring Valley and then this one, right? So I think that's right.
Yeah, sounds
so
right.
We'll appreciate it. So we expect to be super busy because of you guys being here today. So if we're not, then I'll just blame it on y'all.
Yes.
Yeah. Chris's autograph line is getting too long over here. But Larry, we're about 3.5 weeks from kickoff. How where's our head at right now? Excited, nervous? How are you feeling about the team?
I feel good. We always get nervous, like we talked about before that first game. You never know. They don't get a preseason game, unfortunately, which crazy we don't get a preseason game, but you just never know. Hopefully we'll come out and play well in Atlanta. I think we will, because we're playing ACC team and lost in the bowl game. I think everybody's motivated, highly motivated. So I think we'll do well in Atlanta. There's a great atmosphere there, and I think the players be excited about going to Atlanta and playing. So,
but of course they have to win for your birthday.
Yes, my birthday. Yeah, so
Beamer has assured you a victory.
Like I said, he called me again the other day and said, "I promise you, we're going to win." Just for you. I'm going to see him Monday, so he's probably going to say didn't say that.
yeah, he's going to be like, if I did actually not say anything like that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Hopefully, he listens to you guys.
Sometimes. I hope.
Sometimes. No, Dawn Staley listens sometimes.
Yeah.
So if you ever have...
Hey, Coach Staley.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. She'll probably be wishing you happy birthday. Yeah. So I think last time we talked to you at our last grand opening, you're big Nick Carver guy.
Yeah.
You're a believer in Nick Carver this year. Since you've been, reading Gamecock Central daily and watching videos and everything, any other thoughts that have come to your mind of an area that you are really interested to see, or even something that you're a little bit I got kind of some questions, some concerns here, want to see how it plays out?
Yeah, I think our offensive line, we're going to have good depth. I mean, just based off experience and talent, I think we're going to be much better with that experience. And I think, the question mark, obviously, everybody knows, would be the defensive line and the depth and the linebacker. But I think we got a lot of talent there to step up. We just got to get the experience and get people playing together. But I think that's the nervousness. And obviously, we're really good in the defensive backfield. So we got some good quality there. So being interesting to see once we get started. But I think we'll be fine. I mean, we recruited well, and I think we're known to develop that talent. So I think we'll be in good shape.
Larry, we all know Lenoris at this point is he's obviously good. Where are your expectations on just how good this kid could be going into year 2? We had his personal longtime quarterback trainer on earlier this show. He basically said, hey, if 16 is 16, then there's gonna be a lot of happy people. So, what are your expectations for him?
Yeah, I think with the talent we got, offense and especially, the offense line, like I mentioned, with the around him, the wide receivers we got, the running backs, I think we're going to be a very explosive offense. I think Lenore is just going to shine. I mean, he did great last year with as the year went on, he became great, Superman. So I think as hard as he's worked and other players around him's worked, I think we're gonna see some great things out of him. I think the sky's the limit, obviously. So we've only seen a touch of what he's going to be. So,
Larry, did you get a chance to watch any of the new Netflix doc that came out?
I have not. I meant to do it 2 nights ago, and then I got sidetracked. But have y'all?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good stuff.
We've kind of given some reviews. Yeah, Carolina's on episode 1. I want to say 1, 3, and 5, or no, 1, 5, and 7. I don't know.
Okay.
They're in episode 1.
Yeah.
So you will have to relive the LSU game a little bit.
Oh Lord.
But there's some Lenoris.
I hope they don't see me on the sideline running up and down toward the officials.
I did not see you.
Good.
I didn't look really hard though.
I didn't. Yeah, we'll go back. And
I might never get invited.
See if we see Larry on there. Yeah, definitely check it out, and then we'll get your review.
I definitely will. So
yeah, I've only seen I think 2.5 episodes, so I'm doing the.
I skipped ahead. And
I'm not
watched the Carolina
binging.
stuff.
I'm kind of slow grind, I guess.
Yeah.
But all right, Larry, this has been fantastic.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
y'all.
you having us as always. Congrats on another opening.
Appreciate
it. We'll be at the USC location here very, very soon. We'll let everybody know about that.
Yep.
Larry, we'll see
Thank
you
y'all
soon.
so much. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you.
Also, awesome. He is Larry. I am Wes. He is Chris. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you guys. Appreciate y'all. All right, everyone, as we close out the show, we are, of course, at Firehouse Subs, 572 Spears Creek, out in Elgin, South Carolina. Brand new location, so if you're coming on out, they will be open the remainder of the day and into the evening, and the rest of the week. They're open now. So put the address in your maps again, 572 Spears Creek, out in Elgin. Growing area down here. You'll see the big firemen out in front of Firehouse Subs. Come check out the new fries with Firehouse Heroes sauce. It is outstanding. The limited time smoke and barbecue triple stack combo. You can get the classic, or you can get the Carolina Gold. All of your Firehouse Subs favorites are available. FirehouseSubs.com, or use the Rapid Rescue to Go Firehouse Subs on the app to earn yourself some rewards towards future purchases. Firehouse Subs, or the Firehouse Subs app.